Hi, this is Marco Williams from PlayFab, and we are continuing our series on authentication. And right now we're going to set up logging in with Facebook. And I have not done any of the code, so this is going to be a follow along sort of video. So this video is going to be logging in with Facebook, and we're going to do it from scratch. I have already imported the Facebook SDK. There is some troubles that can happen, and I did make another video on resolving Facebook conflicts. So take a look if you're having issues getting the Facebook SDK installed. There's a way to resolve that. But for now, I have it installed, and we're going to get started. So inside of my login window view, I know for sure that we're going to want to initialize Facebook, and we're going to want to make that call. And so when we initialize Facebook, we have this button binding to log in with Facebook, but we can't just call PlayFab API and tell PlayFab to log in. So PlayFab's not going to log you into Facebook automatically. You have to do that first, and this is why we have the Facebook SDK. And there's a little bit of setup that needs to happen before we can make all of this happen. So once you install the Facebook SDK, you want to come up and go to Facebook, and you want to click Edit Settings. And that's going to bring up this little bit of UI. And it's going to want your application name and your app ID. And right now, I don't even know what ID it pre-populated in here, but it's not a valid one. This is a brand new project and a brand new SDK, so I'm not sure where it's getting that from, but it's not the right one. So we need to actually open up Facebook, and this is my personal Facebook account. And if I go into, let's see, where's Manage Apps? So there's this under Explore, there's Manage Apps. And I have a whole bunch of apps here. I'm just going to create a brand new one, and I'm going to call this, I'll just call this PlayFab Authentication Sample. And my email is going to be marco@playfab.com. And I'm going to create an app ID, and it wants me to do this LXR PNV, I think. I got it right. Sweet. Now I have an app ID. So I'm going to copy. Oh, click to copy. That's neat. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that in here. And I'm going to name this. This is PlayFab Authentication Sample. And now we should be all set in terms of setup for just the Facebook inside of Unity. But one thing that we don't have is a way to log in with a specific user. So I might be going a step too fast, but I like to define this stuff out ahead of time. And so I go to roles, and under test user, I'm going to actually add a brand new test user, and I'm just going to say create one user, authorize test users for this app. I just leave everything default. If enabled, test users will have this app installed by default. I think I do turn that on, and I leave that as is, and then I click create test user. So that's going to create a default test user. And the reason we do this is because inside of the Unity editor, it's going to ask us for the token. It's not going to automatically query Facebook and get the token and do the whole process that it would normally do on mobile. We have to furnish that access token ID so that we can test to make sure everything's working inside of the editor. So now that that test user is created, we're not going to do anything with that at the moment. We're going to go back to our code, and I'm going to initialize Facebook. So I'm a pretty big fan about preprocessor directives. It lets me select when things are available and not available. And right now, this sample, I may or may not include the Facebook SDK with this sample in the repository, meaning you're going to have to install it yourself, but I don't want it to break. So I'm going to put some preprocessor directives in place that says if Facebook is installed, allow this code to work. You'll notice that we've done this before with if Unity editor, etc. But I also want to do that inside of my using statements, because we're going to have to say using Facebook, and we only want that to happen if Facebook preprocessor directive is enabled. Okay, so if Facebook is enabled, notice the code is completely grayed out, and the way we enable that is by coming back into Unity. Oh, what did I do? I thought I put end if. Oh, I put else. So we come back into Unity and we go to edit project settings player. And down where it says script defined symbols, I'm going to actually type in Facebook here and hit enter. And that is going to define out my preprocessor directive. And now any code that I type here is going to be valid because it knows that that is enabled. So now I can do fb dot init and this is not detecting Facebook, so I think this is not supposed to be just Facebook. It's probably Facebook, yep, that Unity. And so here we have Facebook init. And so we want to provide a few different handlers for when Facebook initializes and when Facebook hides. So we're going to say on fb init complete, and then we're going to say on fb hide Unity. And I think that's all we need specifically here. I'm going to auto generate these methods, and then I'm going to move them. Okay. So I'm going to cut these out of here. I'm going to put them all the way down at the bottom by our Facebook code. So there was some weird error, and I was trying to figure out why I was seeing red, and it looks like there is some ambiguity between our login result object, and the Facebook also has a class called login result. So we need to explicitly specify what is what, and we're going to do that up here. This needs to be playfab.clientModels.loginResult so that it knows that to use the right login result for this object. Apparently there is Facebook Unity login result as well. And the next step is, oh yeah, so we initted Facebook, and then on init, there's some steps that we need to take. So So one thing that we get when we log in with Facebook is an access token. And if we've already logged in with Facebook previously and already linked our account and everything, then we will get an access token. We'll already have that access token, and we can detect that by doing an if statement in our, oops, I'm in the wrong method. In our initialization, and I want init above my hide, and say if access token dot current access token is not equal to null. Is this? Yeah. Then that means that we have already logged in once with Facebook in our app, and that means that we can safely set our auth service. So so our auth ticket is going to be equal to our access token dot current access token dot I think they have another thing here. Current access token string. That's what it is. Now, if we take a look in our previous video, we had some fields and we utilized email and password, and I had said auth ticket was reserved for Facebook and Google, and so that's what we're using now. Is we're setting our auth ticket in our auth service, and then I want to immediately tell the auth service to authenticate with a type of Facebook. But there's also this display authentication code that's happening as well, and we have some detection already here. So what we want to do is put some sort of process in place that checks to make sure that this isn't happening. So we want to do a check. So here we want to kind of put a check, and I was doing this wrong. So if Facebook, we want to do one thing, and if it's not enabled, then we just want to do this. But since it is enabled, we want to first check if fb dot is initialized, and if it's initialized, then we want to check if the access token so if the access token is null, do that. Else, if Facebook's not at all initialized, then we want to go ahead and set our UI. So that way, if you've never logged in with Facebook before, then it's going to show the panel. If you've already logged in with Facebook and there's no access token, then it's going to try to show the panel, but more than likely Facebook's init code will take over that, and then it will auto log you in with Facebook. You won't have to worry about setting this panel to true because it's just going to automatically log you in. So that covers these two things. So now we need to cover the scenario where we actually have not logged in with Facebook yet, and we are now just selecting to log in with Facebook as that's our choice. And that's what we do on login with Facebook clicked. So to do that, we're going to use Facebook log in with read permissions for now. List, and it takes a list string of things that you have access to. Right now, I'm just going to say public profile. I'm going to say that we want access to email, and I'm going to say that we want access to the user's friends. And then we need a callback. So when this is successful, on handle Facebook result, then we're going to log in our user with PlayFab. So I'm going to create this method here. And here we should have access to the access token. So I'm going to make sure that we do. And then I'm going to set our auth service auth ticket equal to access token dot current access token dot token string. And then I'm going to tell our auth service to authenticate using Facebook. This should, in theory, work as is. So let's test it out and see if we get any issues. We do. Oh, this is left over. Okay, just need to recompile. So now if I push play, it knew that I have not logged in with Facebook. Facebook initialized and there was no access token available. So Facebook knows that we haven't logged in yet with Facebook. And so if I click login with Facebook, it's actually going to prompt us with this screen. Now you only get this screen inside of the Unity editor, but this was why we created this test account. And I'm going to click edit and get access token for this user. I'm going to submit. I'm going to grab this access token. I'm going to paste it inside of here, and I'm going to send the success. And upon successfully logging in, it should have logged us in. It did not work. So why didn't that work? Facebook. Do a little troubleshooting. Okay, so I think I figured out what the issue is. Here in the handle Facebook result, there's a login result, and I don't know why I referenced the current access token this way rather than getting it from the result that it passed. So I'm going to change this code around. And just look for result.access token .token string. And I think we also need to make sure that there was not an error or some sort of cancellation happening. So if canceled, then do one thing, else if result dot error, we want to do another thing, and then the else clause, no error, no cancellation, then we're going to actually log in and equal null. Okay, so if canceled, then we probably just want to display something back to the UI. So this was progress bar dot update label Facebook login canceled, and then bar dot update progress, and we'll set that to 0. And actually, let me copy my progress bar code. here so we can actually make our progress bar go, because we want to log in to PlayFab and we want to show the progress for that. So if they canceled, we're going to set the progress, update the progress to 0, and update that it canceled. And then if there was an error, then we probably want to display what the error was. So okay. And otherwise, we'll update our label. Nope. We'll update our label to logging in to Facebook. Actually, I'm going to do that right from the beginning. As a matter of fact, even though this is covering it, we can just go ahead and make that. And I'm going to move this actually into just before we start authenticating with PlayFab using our Facebook token. Okay, so now let's test that out. We made a few modifications. This should work this time. In the editor using Facebook, okay, so I finally figured out what was going on. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, except for we never completed the code in our authentication service for how to log in with Facebook. So let's do that now.